Hi everyone, this is Erica. This is my second video. If you haven't watched my first one, I want you to go watch that one first and then come back to this one. Today we're going to be talking about going through a breakup in your 20s and how hard it actually is and why. Breakups in your 20s are extremely brutal, and they're not even just sad, they're actually disorienting. You don't just lose the person that you were with, you also lose a version of your life that you created with this person. You also lose the version of yourself that existed while you were with them. Suddenly, everything feels really quiet in a way that's almost too loud. And that's completely normal. Since I'm a psychology major, I had to add some things that I've learned and some research that I've read in this video to make it a bit more interesting, you know? So research actually says that romantic breakups actually activate the same neural regions as physical pain in your body, which is why when you're going through a breakup, your brain sort of feels like it's being rejected. And the hardest part of all of it is how alone you feel throughout the entire process. Like, yeah, you'll have your friends and your family and people that are there for you, but they're not going through it with you. They only know what you're telling them. They only know how you feel based off what you're saying, but they don't actually know what's going on inside of your brain. And no one knows the relationship like you do. Like, you're the one that experienced it. You're the one that loved that person. You're the one that spent your everyday, routine with that person, whatever it might be. They don't understand the routines. They don't understand the comfort that you got from that person or that relationship. They don't even know the inside jokes. And sometimes that's really hard, because you know that people love you and care about you, but sometimes there's only so much that you can say, because it's really hard to relive a relationship that you're trying to grieve at the same time. Some days you're completely fine, like you have the best day ever, and then sometimes you cry in bed all day and don't want to do anything. Sometimes it'll just come out of nowhere, in your car, at night, when you're in the middle of doing something completely random and something just reminds you of them. Then you sort of have this moment and you're like, oh, like, I really am alone again. Like, I'm not with that person. And sometimes I feel like the hardest part is if you accomplish something in your life that this person knew about, or something that was really, really important to you, and like you have some good news and you want to share it with them and you can't, that's sort of like a stab in your heart, because it's just not the same anymore. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with breakups, and that's because breakups often trigger a lot of attachment anxiety. If you were anxiously attached in the relationship, it's going to be a lot harder to go through the breakup. This is extremely hard in your 20s because you're beginning to form key adult attachment patterns. And if you don't go about the healing process in the right way, it's possible that you're going to carry these same patterns into any future relationship you have, possibly even a marriage. But there's also a lot of guilt when you break up with someone. You feel like you have guilt because you miss them, guilt because maybe you stayed too long when you shouldn't have, or sometimes you even feel guilty for leaving someone. And, it's funny because a lot of people that are older, they'll always say, oh, you'll be fine, like, you're young, like, it's no big deal, like, just go date somebody else, like, go do this with this person. And you don't want to do that. But just because you're young, that doesn't mean that it hurts less. It just makes it a little bit scarier, because your brain is still trying to figure out long-term emotional regulation and identity. The 20s is the most transformative time of your life. And I think the part that hurts the most, especially me, like looking at previous relationships, is the future that I imagined with this person. There might have been trips that you guys had planned for your future. There might have been shared milestones in both of your lives. The comfort that you assumed would always exist for you having another person. And I think we get so caught up in the situation we're in, we don't even realize like how attached we are to the future until we don't have it anymore. Until it's just a thought and not a reality. Psychology calls this the loss of anticipated rewards, and it can make your brain circle endlessly. Some people never get over it, even if they're in completely different relationships. Another hard part is the comparison aspect of a breakup. Everyone else your age seems to be getting engaged and having babies. Everybody seems really happy and they're moving forward with their life and their career, and they're moving away from their hometown, they're going to a different state, and you just feel stuck, like in every aspect of your life. But funny enough, research shows that self-comparison is actually one of the strongest predictors of healthy post-breakup adjustment in someone's life. And I know that sounds crazy, but that just means that being gentle with yourself is actually healing your brain, not just the breakup. Because there's a lot of psychological things that go on in relationships. I mean, every aspect of life is completely psychological. And in breakups, I feel like it's often the same. Because not only are you healing your brain, you're also healing your heart. And sometimes you don't really notice that until someone new comes into your life, or you have a moment where you're like, yeah, like I miss that person and I miss the relationship, but it just doesn't hurt like that anymore. Like how it did 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 2 months ago. And everybody's healing is different. Healing is never linear. Healing looks like crying in your car when you miss them, missing them even though you made the right decision to leave and you knew you deserved better. It's also slowly relearning how to love yourself post-breakup. It's also learning how to show up for yourself and exist as yourself, as someone who's not in a connection anymore. Attachment theory tells us that as you rebuild the sense of security within yourself, your brain will start to rewire the loss and turn it into growth. And eventually you'll realize the breakup didn't really set you back. It actually just transformed you to move forward. It's redirecting you towards alignment, some self-growth, and a lot of self-respect. And when you're in the middle of a breakup, it's really messy. It's uncomfortable. But the biggest piece of advice that I can give you, and I know this sounds so cliche, is to allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to feel everything. The anger, the sadness, the happiness, the grieving, all of it. And most importantly, I want you to reflect. I want you to reflect on how you were as a person in a relationship versus how you are now outside of a relationship. And it's not always going to be positive, but you being honest with yourself is a sign that you're growing. And all of the parts that feel very raw and vulnerable and painful, there's actually a lot of good that comes out of it once you get over it. And not get over it in the sense of, you never miss that person or you never think about them, just the part you get over where you finally decide to start the healing. And it's shaping you into someone who's a lot stronger and more resilient. And here's the thing, the breakup is not the end of your story. It's the moment that the story finally becomes yours. Every single tear, every single late night spiral that you have, every memory that feels like you'll never forget about it. It's wiring your brain to recognize your own worth. Science also literally tells us that our brains are capable of rewiring pain to growth. That's just a fact. So instead of begging the universe to bring them back into your life, start showing up for yourself. Do things you always wanted to do. Make new friends. Do a little bit of retail therapy. Buy yourself a new outfit. Buy yourself some new makeup. Get your nails done. Get your hair done. Do things that are going to make you feel confident in yourself and make you feel better without worrying about the opinion of anyone else. Your healing is only your story. Yours. That's it. Nobody else is involved. It's just you. So if there's in any way you feel like you have to be selfish with yourself or your time or your expectations or whatever it may be, I actually encourage you to be selfish with all of those things. And that's not a toxic way of thinking. I feel like a lot of people put a stigma around that. Like it's toxic and you're not supposed to do that. And I don't agree with that. Build a life for yourself that future you will thank you so much for and be so grateful for, and something that you're proud of. Because the truth is, the person that you're becoming now is the person that the world has always intended for you to be or you to grow into. And you never know your real potential until you start putting yourself out there and executing things. This new person is not the one who clung on to something just because they didn't want to be lonely. It's not the one who stayed small and shrunk their self to fit into somebody else's life. It's the one who chose themselves even when it hurt more than anything else in the world. So this is your reset. Keyword your reset, your launch into who you want to be, into what you want to do. Your permission slip to yourself to dream bigger than you ever thought you were capable of. Your permission slip to love even deeper, even when it feels like you have nothing else left to give. And it's also a way for you to remember, it's also a way for you to think you never have to settle for anything you're not comfortable with. If a connection doesn't feed your soul and it doesn't feed your brain in a healthy manner, get rid of it. You're only hurting yourself by keeping that around. And when you finally go through majority of your healing, you're gonna look back at this moment, not with pain, but with pride. You'll realize that the breakup didn't break you. It just made you 100 times better. And I just wanna let you guys know that you're never alone. And it makes me really sad that a lot of people feel alone today, because I know exactly what that feels like. And it sucks, but I know that none of you, really know me. But I'm telling you that if you ever need anyone to talk to, if you ever feel like no one is listening to you, my Instagram DMs are always open. My TikTok DMs are open. Just please reach out. I would love to help you so you can feel less alone. And I'm gonna end with this. The breakup tore you apart. Yes, but it did not break you. It ripped you open so you could finally see yourself and what you deserve and what you're worth. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like this, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. And just remember, you're never alone, and I love you, and I'm proud of you, and you got this. Bye, guys.